Ah, ornamentation, one of the greatest joys of Irish fiddling, but also one of the greatest challenges. It can feel frustrating when you know that each ornament really only takes about a second or two, and yet it takes hours and hours of practicing them in the practice room and trying to fit them in without disrupting your rhythm or any other part of your technique. And honestly, I can't promise that you won't get frustrated after applying the tips I'm going to teach you in this video. However, I can guarantee that if you have a clear path forward and you know which ornament to work on next, it's going to help reduce those frustrating practice sessions a lot. So let's get started, and before we get too far into the tutorial, make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and that you hit that bell icon so that you get notified every other Thursday when I post a new Irish fiddle tip. Now, I wish I could say that I used this approach when I was having my own journey from being a classical violinist turning into an Irish fiddler. However, I really had no idea what I was doing. I had a very piecemeal approach to getting from point A to point B, but that doesn't have to be the case for you. I really do think that having a clear framework laid out for you just helps you make progress so much more quickly on your goals, and in this case our goals are to get a good order of ornamentation and incorporate it into our practice so it sounds completely natural. So our first step is to keep things simple. Start with one-note ornaments. Now for our starting off simple one-note example, we're just literally going to start off with adding one extra thing to one note. So this could be slides, this could be cuts, this could be a triplet maybe. So I'm going to use the Earl's chair to demonstrate, and I'm going to show you just within the first measure what you can do to add in one ornament. So I did two slides there, and maybe I wouldn't do that when I was actually playing the tune, but I'm just doing this to give you examples of where you can put some of these ornaments. So I did two slides. I did a little cut here, and another slide here. Now, when I say triplets, I mean literally just kind of practicing the cut. If your finger isn't going as fast as you'd like it to, it might just sound like... It'll sound a little bit more like a triplet than an actual cut. The cut's more percussive than the triplet. The triplet's a bit more of a noted melodic sound. Now step two is to set up your bow pattern for longer ornaments, specifically rolls. So a bit of a universal rule, whether you're working with half rolls, which are 4 notes, or a full roll, which is 5 notes, don't ask me how the math works there, you want to be using one bow to play that entire pattern. So in our pattern for the Earl's chair, we're going to come up to a roll pretty quickly. Here's our first one. So to set yourself up for these rolls, even if you can't play them up to tempo yet, just get your bow pattern in the practice of just playing one note. So we're just going to do up, down, up, down. So when you hit a dotted quarter note pattern or any pattern that you plan to roll in your tune, you can see some examples of this on the screen here that you could be looking for in your sheet music. Just keep it all in one bow. Don't be tempted to break it up into shorter notes for this practice. You want to just be setting yourself up to add in the notes of the roll. But like I said, you want to keep it easy. You want to start with one note at a time. So we're starting with one note and then we're doing one bow at a time, and then we'll just add all of our roll notes in once you're feeling comfortable with that bow pattern. That's really going to help you with not breaking up the rhythm at all. So you can see here on the screen that there's all of these different patterns that you could choose to turn into a roll. So we've got this triplet pattern that's a D, C sharp, and D. It's really could be easily converted into a roll just by adding that note above and delaying those last 4 notes a little bit. So any of the note patterns on this screen are potential roll opportunities that you can be looking for if you happen to be reading sheet music. Otherwise, just listen for them in the recordings if you learn by ear. By the way, if you leave a comment down below with a tune you're working on that you'd like some ornament suggestions for, go ahead and do that and I will reply back with a few ideas. Our next logical step, now that we've set our space up for rolls, is to add them in. I could spend an entire video explaining rolls, and I actually have, but the entire point of this video is to get our order of ornamentation down. So really my best tip for you here once you're adding the roll in is to play the tune at whatever pace you can play the roll. This is actually a tip that I've been hearing even in my disjointed learning from going from classical to fiddle. So I highly recommend it. It really does help. It is tedious to just play the tune slower than you can just to make sure the roll fits in, but you can do it. I believe in you. So on our example of the Earl's Chair, I will play this slow, medium, and then fast just to give you some sample speeds of how I want you to practice this tune. So maybe you're only comfortable with playing this roll on our F sharp. Maybe it's about at that pace. So that would mean that our tempo would be so very slow, but very intentional. The roll fits right in with that pattern. Now let's do a little bit faster. So maybe you feel like you can play rolls at about that speed. So that's about a medium pace maybe, kind of on the slower side still, but you're just working your way up at whatever pace you can play the ornament. So now let's just do full speed. This is about how fast I might play it in a session. And your final step is to go more advanced. Just like my handwriting gets better the more that I write it on the screen, the more better your ornaments will get the more you experiment and practice. Step 4 really is a fun step, and it honestly is going to be an ongoing step, which is why I put it at the very end, because we're always experimenting, we're always varying up our ornamentation just to add in new things. Maybe you hear someone play something that you really like for example, I really enjoy listening to Fergal Scahill add in double notes, so it's almost like a bow triplet, but it's really just one extra note in the pattern, and I started to adapt that into my playing after I was listening to him do that. So there's plenty of circumstances that I could quote here. That's just the first one that came to mind, but you are always listening to other players and getting new ideas, and hopefully this video will give you a few ideas as well. So a couple of suggestions to get you started in this step would be to try combining a roll with a cut, and you'll see this on the screen here. So it might not fit in with our Earl's Chair example, but let's just use our F sharp roll and I'll demonstrate what I mean. So you're doing a full roll and then you're cutting the note after it. And again, it'll come up in certain tunes where it makes a bit more sense than others, but it is a really fun just 7-note roll pattern to play. So we have the roll into the cut pattern. You could also experiment with bowed triplets like I mentioned. That's kind of more like a 16th, 8th note pattern. So you can experiment with adding those into your tunes. You can also be adding in a double note here and there. I'm actually going to play through the Earl's Chair twice. I'm going to try and do 2 different things each time and just vary it up so that you can hear a bit of how I'm playing around with adding in these ornamentations. So here we go. Now, if this video has you really wanting to go all in and just work on ornamentation and you'd like some extra guidance and accountability, I do have a few spaces open in my private studio at the time of this release. To read more about my lesson format and see if it's a good fit for you, if we're a good fit to work together, go ahead and visit the link below this video in the description. Like I've mentioned before, I've done several tutorials just exclusively on rolls, so you can check out this video here to get my secret to practicing Irish fiddle rolls. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more fiddle tips. And as always, I appreciate you and your dedication to Irish fiddling. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next time.